Welcome to all the devotees in today's session of the Secrets of Bhagavad Gita. Om Jnantimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So today we are going to discuss Bhagavad Gita chapter 1, text number 37 and 38. Let us start. यद्यप्येतेन पश्यन्ति लोभोपहतचेतसः कुलक्षयकृतं दोषं मित्रद्रोहे च पातकम् कथं न ज्ञेयमस्माभिः पापादस्मान् निवर्तितुं कुलक्षयकृतं दोषं प्रपश्यद्भिर्जनार्दन. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Translation: O Janardana, although these men, their hearts overtaken by greed, see no fault in killing one's family or quarreling with friends, why should we, who can see the crime in destroying a family, engage in this acts of sin? Purport: a Kshatriya is not supposed to refuse to battle or gamble when he is so invited by some rival party. So let us try to understand this point. A Kshatriya is not supposed to refuse to battle or gamble when he is so invited by some rival party. So it's a general uh, dharma or duty of a Kshatriya to not refuse fight, whether it comes in terms of uh, on the battlefield or it comes in sports. So whenever a Kshatriya is challenged, he's supposed to respond to it. So that is the uh, dharma of a Kshatriya. And there is a reason why we see in Mahabharata that Maharaj Yudhishthira, though he was not in favor of gambling with Dhritarashtra's sons, Duryodhana and his brothers. However, considering his own dharma as a Kshatriya, he could not refuse that. So, though initially he tried to avoid it, but when he saw that Maharaj Dhritarashtra also wants this sport, so eventually he had to accept that proposal for gambling. So this is not the highest dharma of Kshatriya. This also should be kept in our mind. Otherwise, one may think that a Kshatriya will have to accept any sport or any sort of gambling just because he is being challenged. So that is not the uh, highest dharma. So there are uh, there are instances where a kshatriya can refuse to get involved in gambling. So that is possible. So here Maharaj Yudhishthira, he did not think much about the future of his gambling. He just thought that maybe uh, Maharaj Dhritarashtra, who is like our father, he wants to have all his children play dice. So that was his innocent understanding. Though he knew that this this could lead to some fight, but he was not expecting that uh, Duryodhana and the party would ruin them completely. And he certainly would not have expected that Draupadi would be insulted in the assembly of all Kauravas. So that was something unexpected, and because Maharaj Yudhishthir was a a pure-hearted person, so he didn't think much about the consequences of this gambling. So, so he readily accepted this proposal for playing dice, and we know what happened in that gambling. So here, in the context of Arjuna, he is not supposed to refuse any challenge for fighting, and Arjuna and all his brothers, they try their best to convince Duryodhana to just give them 5 villages and let's stop this fight. However, when uh, Duryodhana did not accept this proposal, rather he declared a war against Pandavas. Pandavas had to accept their challenge because they could not just refuse fighting with Duryodhana. So that's the point Srila Prabhupada makes here. Next, under such an obligation, Arjuna could not refuse to fight because he had been challenged by the party of Duryodhana. In this connection, Arjuna considered that the other party might be blind to the effects of such a challenge. So now it comes the today's verse where Arjuna thought process is being revealed. What Arjuna was thinking. So Arjuna considered, I repeat, Arjuna considered that the other party might be blind to the effects of such a challenge. Arjuna, however, could see the evil consequences and could not accept the challenge. Next, obligation is actually binding when the effect is good, but when the effect is otherwise, then no one can be bound. Considering all these pros and cons, Arjuna decided not to fight. So it's very interesting point here. As I mentioned previously, accepting challenge just for the sake of accepting is not all in all for a kshatriya. So a kshatriya has to consider other aspects of kshatriya dharma as well. So Arjuna, though he knew that as a general duty, he's supposed to accept the challenge of Duryodhana and fight with them and kill them. However, he also thinks that what would be the outcome of this war? All his elders, his superiors would be killed. And who will kill them? The same Pandavas. So he was horrified with thought of killing his superiors just for getting some little kingdom. So that was not just one point. Uh, Later, Arjuna is also explaining that what actually happens when all elderly members of a family die. So he would explain that because there would not be elders in our family, so uh, the ladies of the family would not be uh, taken care of properly. They would not be protected, and when they would not be protected, uh, they would be exploited by other male members of the society. So, and by such unwanted uh, intermingling of men and women, Varna Sankara Praja would be born. Varna Sankara means who are not fit for following dharma. So Arjuna could think that by fighting with Duryodhana and killing him and all his supporters, eventually he would again sink into sin. Because what would be the outcome? Sin. And concerning this, Arjuna proposes that if the outcome is sin anyway, then why would uh, why would we fight with them? There is no point in fighting with our elders and defeat them. because the outcome is not good. And that's what Prabhupada also mentioned, that the binding is there, but actual obligation is actually binding when the effect is good. So this is also aspect of Kshatriya Dharma. So if the effect is not good, then such so-called obligation does not really mandatory. We can ignore that. And we clearly see this in the Mahabharata war also, when Arjuna was being challenged by, I think, Dronacharya or some others. But uh, Lord Shri Krishna advised Arjuna not to accept that challenge and just go forward to fight with other warriors. So, in that particular instance, Arjuna was confused that why should I not accept this challenge? I am such a great warrior, and this person, maybe Dronacharya or some other, they are expecting me to fight with them, and I must accept this. But Lord Krishna simply ignored this challenge, and he advised Arjuna to just continue moving forward to fight with other warriors. So it is not the overruling principle that whenever a Kshatriya is challenged, he must accept the challenge. So sometimes, sometimes a Kshatriya has to act diplomatically. So in diplomatic dealings, often we may have to cross the ordinary boundaries of dharma. So that's quite possible here. So, and the very fact that Arjuna is rethinking over his decision, that's an indicator that there is a possibility that this decision could be changed. The decision of fighting with Kauravas could be changed. Otherwise, there is no point in simply rethinking over it. Arjuna is not such a ignorant person that he would question about his own decision at this moment. So, being a responsible person and intelligent person who is highly learned in scriptures, he could see that there is no benefit in this fight, and I think we all should rethink about fighting with the Kauravas, and uh, that is what being reflected here, that katham nat niyam asmabhi. So it may be that our superiors were blinded by some other uh, inferior motive or some other motive, and they could not see the consequences of this war. But why should we engage them in fighting when we can clearly see such consequences? So Arjuna was right in his calculation. So and it was a very intelligent proposal that there is no point in simply fighting with them, and we should simply ignore their challenge. So here there is another perspective which I want to bring it to everyone's notice, that when we think of elders and superiors, generally we tend to think that they are perfect, they are above doubt, or they are they should not be questioned. Sometimes we may have such impressions, particularly when they have been trained into shastras, because at least in the context of Mahabharata, we can clearly see this, that Arjuna is talking about his own guru Dronacharya and Bhishma Dev, who is such a highly learned personality, and many others, his relatives, who were similarly learned, highly learned. So Arjuna understands, being a saintly person and being blessed by Lord Shri Krishna, he could clearly see that uh, my elders, my superiors, though they are learned, but they have become blind due to some lobha, due to greed. So, and it is possible that our superiors may get bewildered, but that does not mean that just because of their this particular shortcomings at some particular moment in life, we can disrespect them. So this is the point which I want to highlight here. Elders are always elders, and they should be respected as elders under all circumstances. So they are not respected, or they are respected all the time. So it may be that uh, they may get bewildered at certain moments in life, but we should not cross our own maryada. That's the point we should all learn here. Uh, and that this brings us to another topic, that what actually respecting elders mean. Respecting elders mean respect them for what they are, and we should also understand that they may have some imperfections. So nobody is God here. That's also a fact. So we can expect perfection only in God. So it is possible that we we are surrounded by many superiors in terms of dharma. We have our elder brothers, our elder sisters, our parents, husband, uh, our teachers, and so many other relatives. So it is possible that they may have some imperfections, but the uh, Maryada of Dharma teaches us that no matter what they are, they should be respected for their particular contributions, because they are elders, so they should be respected. That's the uh, that's the Maryada set in the Vedic culture. So all these elders, they benefited Arjuna, and Arjuna was highly obliged to them for this particular favor. So he was able to remember all these favors, and he could also see that there is some fault in them. They are supporting Duryodhana, who is a very wicked personality, and uh, he should not be supported by any saintly person. Otherwise, why Arjuna would uh, fight with Duryodhana? If he thinks that his elders were right, then he would not fight with Duryodhana. But he could clearly see that his elders were wrong in supporting Duryodhana. So it may possible in our uh, regular life, we may see our elders supporting something which should not be supported. But we should not disrespect them, or ignore their superiority just because of this fault. In fact, we see that when the Mahabharata war starts, Maharaj Yudhishthira uh, goes to each and every superior, every elderly members of his family and his teachers, to get blessings to conquer them. So he maintained his maryada under all circumstances. So why we should understand this point? Because it is very difficult to understand uh, dharma, how to follow dharma in complex situations. So life is complex, and as a consequence, it brings us to the situation where we are often challenged uh, in our uh, duties of dharma. So it is undeniable that it could be challenging sometimes. However, we should also note that. Uh, by hearing these narrations from Ramayana, Mahabharata, and many other scriptures, we should see how saintly personalities in the past behaved when they were faced with such challenges. So, a common scenario in all saintly personalities that they always respected Maryada. They never crossed their uh, dharma. So, just seeing some imperfection or some fault in elders does not justify us neglecting them or disrespecting them. So, that's a subtle point. I don't think I have given enough justice for that because it needs so much of discussion and how we should still maintain our maryada towards superiors, even though we clearly see that they are at fault. In daily course of traditional uh, traditional Indian life, we can say that there are instances where uh, mother-in-law is not in good term with daughter-in-law, but still, uh, daughter-in-law is supposed to maintain the maryada. Of course, uh, media and some ill-motivated people always try to emphasize only those negative part of traditional Indian life where this such family characters like sasu or mother-in-laws, they are dominating over their daughter-in-laws and they're exploiting them. So that's a separate picture. However, uh, it is also a fact that such things are also seen in our uh, Vedic culture. So the modern way of dealing with it, that they uh, challenge it, they challenge the superiors, and they defame them and isolate themselves uh, from them. But the traditional solution, the traditional way of dealing is that they still maintain the respect. They uh, become the solution for themselves. So they follow their own dharma and they try to please them, and gradually they uh, win their hearts. So challenging our superiors, it's not the solution. We should also understand where to challenge and where to become submissive, because uh, even a kshatriya has to consider where he should challenge his enemy. It's not that he should, just because someone is his enemy, he should just go on challenging him. Even that won't work all the time. So he has to consider his bala bala. So the same thing uh, should be considered in dealing with family relationship. So where we clearly see that someone is our superior and uh, they are at fault, and it is very evident to many other people. But still, we should maintain our maintain respect toward them and try to win their hearts. Because once we challenge them, then there would be a quarrel, and then relationship will be broken. And once hearts are broken, then it's very difficult to bring them together. That's a sad reality of this life. So before challenging anyone, we should think uh, more than 10 times, because once you challenge someone, uh, you really become their enemy. Now, you may not declare yourself as someone's enemy, but that's what really happens. Once you challenge someone, you become that person's enemy. So in family relationship, so certainly this challenging attitude will never work. So we have to find some another way. So that is uh, remain humble, remain submissive, try to win their hearts, and we also have to see the gravity of the situations. Uh, Generally, family issues are not so like some like war issues. That's somebody has to now reach out some uh, allies and wage a war against them. That is not the situation. So those who know how to deal with them, they learn it in their parampara, in their family lineage, how to deal with this particular situation. Sometimes it may happen that uh, the person who we try to change will never change. It is possible because after all, uh, we cannot control anyone. We can control ourselves, but we don't have the key for others. So we can try our best. And it's also a fact in Vedic culture, everybody understands that changing sometimes, changing one's attitude, changing one's likes, and changing one's dislikes, uh, it may take lives, not just uh, days or months. It may be, so it is possible. So let's just accept this that uh, and another thing that we may think that just by challenging them I will be get rid of the challenge. That is also a wrong understanding because by challenging our superiors it may be that we get rid of them now, but there will be other person in society who would be challenging us because the situation will be different, our roles will be different, and again we will have to find ourselves in the same situation. For example, nowadays women they cry for women rights, equal rights, and sometimes they demand more rights than men. And what is the result? They go to job, they don't want to be housewives, they dislike being housewives, so they don't obey their husbands, but they go to the job and they obey their uh, company boss. So now the boss may sometimes dislike them, boss may sometimes chastise them, whatever may happen, but still they stick to their boss, stick to that particular company for some money. So even though they wanted to get rid of some particular so-called harassment, now again they are put into the same situation. So anyway, they were supposed to obey someone. So it would be more practical to just obey one's husband rather than finding a replacement of that husband. Now it comes in the form of a boss. So it is very impractical solution. So in Vedic culture, uh, people have been trained right from the beginning to respect elders uh, for for their contributions and value their contributions for eternity. We have this Pitri Rune. Uh, we celebrate their uh, appearance or disappearance. So it's a Vedic culture is a culture of gratitude. So whatever we get from our elders, we always owe respect to them. So the idea of disrespecting them for some insignificant things generally do not come to a person who is well trained in Vedic culture. So uh, That does not mean that they do not see faults in their superiors. Or Hare Krishna, no audio. Okay, what's the issue? No issue. Okay, okay. I think it is fine. Sorry for the disturbance. So, respecting elders in Vedic culture does not mean that they do not see faults in their superiors. They can see shortcomings of their superiors, but that does not justify disrespecting them. And if we extend this logic further, actually uh, we can try to forget everyone's shortcomings, because after all, everyone is humble, innocent servants of Lord Shri Krishna. So it is only because of ignorance somebody is misbehaving towards us. So let's give them a chance. Let's be a good example of what Krishna conscious person really like is, and help them come out of this ignorance. So that's a very mature response compared to our modern upbringing. So we do not generally calculate such things, and the obvious reason is because we have not been trained into Vedic culture. We do not know how to help others. We do not know even how to help ourselves. So naturally, we end up in uh, challenging everyone, whoever is opposed to us. So that's the sad reality of our society, where ignorance prevails everywhere in all aspects of life, whether it is family life, social life, uh, marriage life, or everything, everywhere. So that's a lesson for us, that we should understand that even though our elders may have some imperfections, but still they are worthy of our respect, they are worthy of our love, and we should win their hearts. So winning the heart is the solution. Even even for Kshatriya, it is advisable that he should try to make peace with his enemies, instead of simply quarreling with them or challenging them. So when nothing works, and when one is obliged to fight with his enemies, only then he can uh, bound he only then he could be bound to fight. Otherwise, he should not think of fighting with anyone. So ahimsa paramo dharma, that's the essence. So ahimsa should be reflected not only in our deeds, but only in our thoughts. So we should cultivate the spirit of ahimsa even in our thinking. Why should I think negatively about someone? What is the reason? Just because someone hurts me, that does not justify me thinking negatively about that person. So that's a lesson for this particular shloka. So I will end here, and if there is some question, we can take. Uh, I will unmute you all. Okay, now you can ask questions if you have. Vedaka Pro,
Yes, Prabhu.
yesterday you had some question.
Actually, it got answered, Guruji, during
Okay,
today's class, and
okay,
more or less I got the answer, but Means I think it will be covered also in the coming shlokas.
Okay, it's all up to you. Okay, so we will uh, end here. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Yajna ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining.